The Niord is a Tier 8 premium pan-European battleship and one of the two rewards you can choose upon completion of the August 2025 campaign. I want to start out by showing you the best of what this ship has to offer because I, to be frank, didn't enjoy my time in it nearly as much as I did the Minegumo. There against the Des Moines in the distance, you can see the citadel we achieved, and we're going to shoot at him again with very fast reloading main battery guns. The second salvo sent his way is also going to yield a citadel. So these guns, they're both pretty accurate and pretty effective. They are 8 380mm guns with a fairly anemic AP alpha strike of only 11,600. But that accuracy and the quick reload at 19.9 seconds with this commander build, that's very good. And then on top of that, the Niord is a pretty tanky ship too, with some great brawling capabilities. Here we've got Musashi and Conqueror. Well, maybe not so much Conqueror anymore after the friendly DD takes him out, but Musashi at least. And we've got torpedoes off one side of the ship sending his way. We're going to turn and maybe get the torpedoes off the other side of the ship. He's somewhat broadside to us. And so we're able to get the cheek with two citadels, again showing the accuracy and the power of the main battery guns. And then, of course, the torpedoes do make contact. And Musashi is well on his way back to port. Plus, he shoots back at us, and the damage is fairly minimal thanks to the decent armor scheme of the Niord. There goes Musashi, our first kill of that match, and we take 30-some thousand damage to 122,000 in just a few moments. So the Neort is very good at this kind of close-range combat, although you definitely need to find 1v1 scenarios and isolate the enemy ships. You certainly don't want to be taking too much focus fire. Part of the reason for that has to do with the HP pool. You'll notice that we only have 63,900 HP. That's really low for a Tier 8 battleship. For comparison, the other Tier 8 premium pan-European battleship, the Karl Johan, has 73,000 HP, a full 10k more than this thing does. And of course, if you remember back to my Karl Johan video, well, I didn't like that thing very much when it first came out, and my opinion on the ship hasn't really changed. I don't think it's all that good. Niord here, I would say, is much better than the Karl Johan in many ways, worse in some other ways, namely the low HP pool. But this is basically Karl Johan 2.0, the improved version. There's the Napoli, got some torpedoes against him. Obviously, we're going to lose this game. It's too little too late, 4v1, and we're dead. So we do suffer a tragic defeat in that match, but the next battle I have to show you is more of a full game. And we'll run down the ship stats, I'll show you my commander build, the armor scheme, and give you my final thoughts on the ship. Now, this next battle, as we load into it, is going to feature a lot less brawling and a lot more kiting. Surprise, surprise, welcome to the Xarkun School of Kiting. You'll see why we have to kite in this battle, and I think we made the right decision. Although somebody on the enemy team did DM me after this game and told me to, quote, learn to attack, so somebody was pretty unhappy with my performance. You'll have to tell me what you think at the end of the battle in the comments section. Anyway, for the commander build, as we take a shot at the USS Voyager, this, like the shot against the Des Moines in the first clip, is also going to yield pretty good results. Again, these guns are pretty accurate, and I have not done anything to build into the accuracy of the guns either. This is entirely stock accuracy. The only thing affecting it would be Aiming Systems Mod 1, which does give you a small dispersion bonus of, I think, 7%. Maybe that's not so small. Anyway, the commander is Janko Vukovic. He's the only pan-European battleship commander. We've got Kondo and Rosia as his two inspirations to spec into the concealment, because the concealment on this thing is a highlight. With those two inspirations in the concealment mod, we've got 11.7 kilometer detectability by sea. Pretty good, pretty stealthy, I would say. As for the commander, some of his skills do really influence the parameters here. The skill in the first row, called Reckless Gunman, is kind of like an alternative to the Brawler skill, reduces the main battery reload time by 8%, but also decreases torpedo acquisition range by 15%, making torpedoes a little less visible to you when they're flying at your face. However, that is mitigated by the sonar that the Niord comes with. We've got a 3.3 kilometer torpedo detectability range with that sonar, 4.7 km ship acquisition range. So it's not like really the German sonar per se, but it can certainly defend you. And then it's got a 98-second duration. Another citadel on the USS Voyager, by the way. The Niord really is quite good at taking out enemy cruisers. And that's one thing that I think makes it a lot better than the Karl Johan. These guns are 8 380mm guns. With this build, they've only got a range of 17 kilometers, and that's not so good. But the reload time at 19.9 seconds is excellent. That's like super heavy cruiser reload. Turret traverse time at 27.3 seconds is likewise pretty good. HE alpha is pretty anemic at 4400 with a 34% fire chance. Haven't actually really shot any HE in this thing. Haven't felt the need to yet, to be honest with you. And the AP alpha strike, likewise, fairly anemic, 11,600. But of course, the main gimmick, I would say, of this ship is the long-range torpedoes that the Wisconsin is about to eat, sitting flat broadside to us. Nice work there. A lot of torpedoes on his broadside there, 4 of them. These are, of course, the Pan-European torpedoes. They've got a ridiculous speed of 86 knots, and unlike the Karl Johan, they've got excellent range of 14 kilometers. Now, they don't hit the hardest, 10,700 maximum damage, and very conspicuous in the water, even more visible than IJN torpedoes, 1.8 kilometer detectability. Definitely not ideal, but as you can see, they can be pretty effective, especially when ships are broadside and not expecting them. Now, they reload in 140 seconds, so that's probably not great. And unlike the Minegumo yesterday, the Niord has a really good aggregate AA defense rating of 94, and it's got a litany of AA guns that do, I'd say, halfway decent, well, maybe not halfway decent DPS. They certainly shoot down planes, unlike the Minegumo, but I doubt they're going to be enough to stop a full strike. The maneuverability on this thing is alright. It's got a 32-knot top speed, which is fast enough, an 840-meter turning circle, which is pretty good for a battleship, and then a 15.4-second rudder shift time, which I would say is more or less average. And then, of course, the concealment. We've already gone over that with my 2 inspirations and the concealment mod, 11.7 km detectability by sea, which is quite useful. Now, if we take a look at this battle, there's still 10 minutes left on the clock. Not a single ship has gone down yet, which is absolutely insane. There's an enemy destroyer inside of our base. Our friendly Shima over here on the flank is moving back to the base to go defend it, along with the other friendly destroyer. Actually, I think we have 2, but at least one other aside from the Shima is headed back to the cap. Meanwhile, on this side of the map, if you noticed earlier, I didn't call it out because we were talking about the ship's stats, but there's an enemy Shima that was last spotted on this flank. Our Shima went to go engage that guy, might have done a little bit of damage to him, but ultimately he drove him off. Now we're not spotted, so that means the enemy Shima is further than 11.7 kilometers away from us, or he's behind an island. But this is going to allow us to move up just a little bit, and I wanted to point out this sequence here. We are headed back toward the base. We don't want to push out further on the flank with our face and sail straight into the enemy Shima, particularly since our destroyer support has been pulled back to the cap. I wanted to point this out to you because there's a legitimate reason to kite in this scenario. We do need to go back and defend the base and do what we can to save it. Taking a shot at the angled Duncan there. As you can see, while the guns are pretty good against broadsides, they don't do too much to angled targets. But, you know, if you're unangled, like USS Voyager and a bunch of cruisers that I've shot at with this thing before him, well, you really do have to worry about these guns. Again, the accuracy here is pinpoint. I think this thing either has 2.0 or 2.1 Sigma. Not entirely sure on the number. But the accuracy is really a highlight of these main battery guns, along with the quick reload. You can probably get a lot of mileage out of them, and even if your initial salvo isn't quite enough to take out the pesky enemy cruiser, well, if he stops short and smokes up, the follow-up salvo ought to do the trick. There's first blood, and there's 8 minutes on the clock in this battle. That's almost unheard of in Legends, particularly following an update like this. Usually the gameplay is, well, people aren't lasting this long, let's just put it that way. More torpedoes in the water, but note, now that our detectability has gone down to normal after the firing penalty, we were still spotted. That means Shima's within 11.7 kilometers of us, and we can deploy our sonar, because we know to expect his torpedoes. There they come from behind us. We're going to be able to easily avoid at least that set, but it's only one of 3 from the Shima, so we have to be wary. Those of you who tell me that concealment on battleships is not useful, well, that gave me all the information I needed to know to pop my sonar and know to avoid the incoming torpedoes. Second salvo from Shima is on its way. We should be able to avoid it as well. And then we do need to worry about a third rack of torpedoes, but we've still got a little bit less than a minute from the torps. Speaking of which, we land another torp on USS Wisconsin, taking us above 112,000 damage done. And the friendly destroyers succeed in clearing the threat inside of our cap. So hopefully that means friendly Shima is going to be sailing back this way, because of course we cannot sail in to both the Dyson, the Wisconsin, and the Shima. If we sail toward the Wisconsin with Dyson going toward the right-hand side of the screen, we are going to be caught in a crossfire between Dyson and Wisconsin. And, well, the armor on this thing, it's pretty good. You saw us tank a little bit from the Musashi, and in spite of our relatively low HP pool, we are doing pretty well. We've still got 31,000 HP left despite taking some punishment, and we've got a lot of longevity left in us, provided we don't take any Shimakaze torpedoes. The torpedo damage reduction on this thing, by the way, is 20%, so you really don't want to be taking any torpedoes. Luckily, friendly Shimakaze comes in and spots the enemy Shima, who is completely full health. I guess in their initial engagement, friendly Shima didn't get too much work done. No matter, we'll chime in with the guns, had to turn a little bit there to get them all on target. Friendly Shima hits Dyson, and with him dispatched, which he will be momentarily here, then maybe we'll have the opportunity to turn around, because we'll be able to go dark, and we've got the destroyer support to take out Shima. Actually, before I forget, I should probably talk about the secondaries. You'll notice that the thing has a conventional battleship heel. It's got the sonar, which we've already discussed, and then it's got the enhanced secondary consumable. The secondaries on this thing I don't think are worth speccing into, mostly because they've got a base range of 5 kilometers. And if you fully build for them using the secondary mod, the Porcupine skill, and then at least Hipper as one inspiration, well, the range that I got was 7.4, 7.5 kilometers. Not all that usable. I mean, it would certainly help if you're in brawling scenarios like we were in the beginning versus the Musashi in that clip where we lost. But in situations like this, where you've got a Shima chasing you down a flank and you've got to not push into it, well, maybe not ideal. Although, now that the Shima is spotted and we do take a torpedo from him, he would be in range of our secondaries if they were fully built. And I have, seen these secondaries firing at ships in close-range brawling scenarios. They do pen a lot of armor, from what I can tell. They've got a decent fire chance, or actually a really good one at 7%, and they've got a 3-second reload time. They are 120 millimeters, but I don't think they're worth speccing into. It's the main battery guns and the torpedoes that are probably going to net you the most damage in this thing. And now that the enemy Shimakaze is dispatched, well, now we don't have any torpedoes to worry about. We don't have to worry about being crossfired between the Wisconsin and the Dyson, so now we can push in against the Wisconsin and brawl. We don't have a lot of HP left. Wisconsin is a very accurate ship, and he can deal a lot of damage, but we're going to be able to survive against him. He cannot overmatch us. The armor plating on this thing is good. It's got a 32mm bow and stern. The side armor is quite thick. The citadel is waterline, so you can be hit in the citadel, but as long as you angle, you can protect it reasonably well. This thing doesn't seem to eat as many ridiculous pens as the Karl Johan does because it doesn't have a bunch of, what are they called, casemates that are designed scientifically to catch and arm shells. The armor surface on this thing is a lot flatter, and that can result in nasty penetrations if you're not angled well enough. But provided you are, it is tanky in spite of the low HP pool. There goes Wisconsin for our second kill of the game, about 160,000 damage done, and a nice example of the Niord in perhaps not the best scenario you could find yourself in. I think what you really want to do in this ship is brawl, but of course you have to be careful with those engagements, and sometimes you have to play passively. Sometimes you probably won't be able to brawl because the situation in the game won't allow for it, and if you try to force it, you can be taken out quite quickly due to your low HP pool and due to just eating penetrations in the armor scheme if you're not properly angled, which is difficult if you're pushing into a scenario where you're outnumbered. So the ship is okay, basically, is my verdict on it. It's a lot like Karl Johan 2.0, except it's better, due to the fact that the main battery guns are both accurate and feel like a legitimate threat. I couldn't say the same thing about the Karl Johan. It's got more guns, they're smaller caliber, they feel a lot less accurate than this, and frankly, when I'm facing Karl Johans, I don't respect them seriously as a threat. Against this thing, I would respect its guns, and I would want to angle to them. And of course, the torpedo power is nice, the concealment is excellent, so it's certainly an okay ship, but I just think the Minegumo is better. Even after playing this one for about 20 matches, I still think I would pick the Minegumo. This is an improved Karl Johan, but it is definitely not my favorite battleship they've ever released as a campaign. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.